This problem is asking us to take a point on a graph of, let's say, a parent function, y equals g of x, and transform it based on these different transform equations, a, b, and c. I just want you to recall that where I see -8 in the original point on the original graph, I want to think of that as, of course, x, and as well as the input. And where I see -1 on that original point, I want to think of it as y, or g of x, and as well the output. So for the first part, where I'm given this new equation based on the original function, I could look at it through a transformation lens. And this is kind of what you get when you look at the solution. When you click on help me solve this, or if you click on show me an example, it'll show you through a transformation type lens, where anything that is added inside of the function, like adding 6, is actually shifting the function to the left 6 units. So to shift -8 to the left means subtract 6. But I'm going to show you something a little bit different here. So just for the sake of doing something a little bit different, so you have another point of view. Where I have -8 as the input, what I actually want to do is ask myself, what would x need to be so that x plus 6 gives me -8? In other words, I'm going to solve this small equation. What does x need to be so that x plus 6 gives me the input value -8? Now to do that, to solve that equation, I'm subtracting 6 from both sides, and that's how I get that whole movement of left 6 units, or subtracting 6, to get that the x value of that transform point would be -14. So if that is -14, -14 plus 6 becomes -8. So now I can rewrite this entire equation as g of -8 minus 3. So I'm going to take this a step further. And I know that g of -8 equals -1. That's what this point here is telling me. G of -8 equals -1. So this time I'm going to make a substitution. This expression equals -1. So y on the transform graph will end up at -4. So I end up with the point -8, -1, transformed to the point -14, -4. So doing this again for the next example, remember, I'm asking myself at first, what does x need to be so that x minus 1 equals -8? Solve that equation. I would solve that by adding 1 to both sides, and I get that x must be -7. Okay, so that's the first part of that transformed point. Next, I will take this expression g of, which should be -8 at that point, right? If I go back and substitute in, which equals -1, and I will just finish that operation. So -4 times -1 is +4, and +4 plus 2 is 6. And for the last one, same type of thing. Let me set this input equal to the given input of that particular point on the parent graph. I would start by solving that equation. Sorry, that's supposed to be an 8. And I get that x is -4. So that's the first part of that point. Next, if I were to plug in a -4 here for x, I get 4 times -4 is -16. -16 plus 8 is -8. So that's the same thing as g of -8, which we have already been told equals -1. So that's how we get the output of that transform point.